Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and we are delighted to have with us a very special guest today, the Director of the Business Development for the Association of Mature American Citizens, Mr. Andrew Mangione is with us today talking about Obamacare. Well, what a subject. Andrew, I don't even know where we start with this mess. And, you know, it was really interesting because I'm sitting down as a manager of a business talking to various companies about what do we do if this happens, what do we do if it doesn't happen, and as it relates to the size of our business and everything else that's going on. And I am thoroughly confused.
Aren't we all, Perry? And it's just going to get more confusing.
What do we do with this thing? Is there any hope to getting this thing out? And the other thing is, what about the Liberty University challenge now that is starting to surface? Is that going to be our hope?
I think that's going to be part of our hope. I think you're going to see, as we learn more and more about this legislation, because we don't know everything yet, because it hasn't fully been disclosed. I think you may see some chinks in the armor. I think the Liberty University lawsuit could be a precedent setter. All you need to do is win one of those. I think you'll see this legislation, the Affordable Care Act, be continuously challenged in court.
Well, we've got states that have been given opt-out. Have companies given opt-out. I mean, what's left to keep this thing enforced? Well,
there's still, I guess we'll learn and find out. The waivers that were granted over the past couple of years will expire. Eventually, we're all going to be under the yoke, if you will, of the Affordable Care Act. But some chinks in the armor have emerged, including some Republican governors' refusal to implement and to set up the state health insurance exchanges. If you recall, Perry, the hallmark, the centerpiece of the Affordable Care Act involves the offering of federal subsidies.
Right.
These are subsidies that are designed to help low and middle income individuals purchase health insurance.
Right.
However, they may only be applied to insurance exchanges set up by individual states, not exchanges implemented or set up by the federal government. So you've got 17 governors that have responded to the HHS imposed deadline by refusing to set up a state-run exchange. And so what that means is those federal subsidies will not be available. And this could embarrass the administration because the health insurance that's going to be offered minus the subsidies in these states that won't set up the exchanges will not be affordable.
All right. Now, that sets up two questions, Andrew. One is, we don't have a budget, so we don't know if the federal government can afford these subsidies. And number two is there any legal action from the feds back to the state for not setting up the agreement?
Good questions, Perry. You know that this administration is all about retribution. I'm sure they're cooking up some kind of scheme to punish these Republican governors, or vilify them in the media. But what they didn't realize at this point in time is that over half of Americans do not like the Affordable Care Act. They do not have, they meaning the administration, they do not have public opinion on their side. As a matter of fact, Scott Walker in Wisconsin made no bones about implementing or not implementing these health insurance exchanges in his state of Wisconsin. He's telling the feds that the state of Wisconsin can provide for 90% of its citizens with health insurance that is cheaper than what the federal government is proposing with the Affordable Care Act. So they can try, and they will. They can make a lot of noise, but they do not have public opinion on their side.
All right. So have the pre-issued opt-outs created a precedence by which you really can't enforce this thing? If you've given excuses to some, why can't you give excuses to all?
That's a good question. I don't know with regard to these waivers that have been given. The more we learn about this plan, the more it's going to be challenged. And we could end up with something that's called the Affordable Care Act, something we refer to as Obamacare, but it could look completely different than what you and I are discussing today.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the budget issue, Andrew. I mean, if we can't get a budget out of this Congress and we go over the fiscal cliff, what impact is that going to have on implementing Obamacare?
I think, well, you have to keep in mind, Perry, that Obamacare is the law of the land.
Right.
And what the authors of this bill they came up with this grand idea that, number one, nobody asked for, and number two, they think it's a great idea, but they're making, now they said essentially to the states, here's our bill, we rammed it through Congress, this is the law, now you implement it. So I don't think they have a whole lot of safeguards or a whole lot of leverage when it comes, the states can simply refuse to implement these exchanges. And that's what you're seeing with 17 Republican governors refusing to set up these healthcare exchanges and 10 other states considering doing the same, meaning not implementing them. So I don't think they can, there's a whole lot of leverage here legally for the federal government to force Obamacare on the states.
Wow. Now, the states who do go and set it up against those who do not, now you've created a whole nother level of class warfare.
Yes, you've created a giant, horrible mess, dividing Americans even further than they've been divided over the past 4 years.
Unbelievable. I just, the whole thing is just so mind-boggling. I don't think the average, everybody didn't want it. Now we got it, and they still don't know what we got.
We still don't know what we have. But, the thing is, I think the thing is not to panic. This is a very interesting process that's taking place here. And we're not even talking, we're talking about waivers. We're talking about states refusing to implement the healthcare exchanges. We're not even talking about the lawsuit filed by the Catholic Church.
Yes, right.
And the bishops. I mean, this thing is multifaceted. This thing is there's not going to be one definitive answer. It's going to evolve, and it could, and parts of it, huge chunks of it, could be falling apart right before our very eyes the more we learn about this bill.
Andrew, do you see any good in this? Anything?
No.
Is there anything? I mean, the only thing I could possibly think of would be the pre-existing waivers that had to be carried forward. I'm trying to look for a silver lining, and even that one's kind of tarnished.
I'm sorry. Perhaps I sound a little jaded, but I don't see any good. And my example that I'll cite is the federal government has done such a good job with Medicare and the Veterans Administration, so why not give them all of our health care?
Yeah.
No, thank you. Now, we may see health care reform in the version of having health insurance companies accept people with pre-existing conditions. That would be good, but there's nothing good about the federal government running our health care. Perry, think about it. Once they have our health care, they can pretty much dictate the food we eat,
right,
how much exercise we get, who's going to receive medicine, who's not going to receive procedures. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I just see the thing somewhere imploding, and it may be a financial reason why it implodes, in addition to all the things that you previously mentioned. So let's fast forward and let's say it implodes. What happens then? Where are we?
Well, I'll tell you where we are from a perspective of the Association of Mature American Citizens.
Yeah,
we've recently conducted healthcare workshops. We were approached by the GOP Doctors Caucus. These are members of Congress, Republican members of Congress, who are physicians, and they came to us and said, "What do your members think about healthcare reform? We have a feeling that Obamacare may not stick the way it's written. So when it's time to go back to the drawing board, what do your members think? How should healthcare be reformed?
Yeah.
Get your members' opinions." So we put out a call to our members who had healthcare experience. We had physicians, and keep in mind that 40% of our membership still works. So we had both retired and currently working physicians of all specialties, nurses of all specialties, RNs, LPNs, master degree nurses, all kinds of healthcare clinicians like physical therapists and radiographic technologists. Then we had insurance people, brokers, insurance agents. We had even the gentleman that started WellPoint is an AMAG member. He chimed in on the debate, as well as consumers. And we put up on the end result of these workshops. They were held online and they were held by teleconference. We have a 175-page document of their ideas on our website at amac.us that we presented to the GOP Doctors Caucus as a starting point to reform healthcare. So long story short, Perry, the best thing that could happen when Obamacare implodes is that we go back to the drawing board, and now we know what not to do.
All right. amac.us for those who want to get more information, and Andrew and his organization and the great work that they're doing. Thank you, Andrew. Let me just ask you this quickly. I mean, do you sense this thing is heading to destruction? I mean, it appears it's just so much. It's such a mess that we can't get any of it to stick right.
I don't know. I think that we need to learn more about it. I mean, we're hearing new things almost on a daily basis, and none of it is positive. I don't know what to think right now. I'm hoping that this thing will implode and it will collapse under its own weight. We just don't know that much about it. Perry, you're familiar with the $63 per person tax that just came out the other day? That's going to be levied on every business that that provides health insurance for their employees. This tax will cover the pre-existing conditions clause. Wow. And the employer is going to pass that on to every employee. So our health care is going to go up. It's not going to go down. That's just the latest in Obamacare. So I sense that it's not good. I don't want to be overly optimistic, but it's going to be an interesting ride. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of anguish, a lot of anger, a lot of division while we learn about this.
Well, we had to pass it before we knew it was in it. Now we have to implement it to really know what's in it.
Unfortunately.
Andrew, thank you so very much. Again, folks who want to correspond with him, amac.us. Thanks, Andrew. God bless you, friend. Have a good day, okay?
God bless you.
Okay.
Thank you, Perry.
Okay, bye-bye.